Today we turn in our scriptures to the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 14, verses 22 to 33. Then he made the disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side while he dismissed the crowds. And after he dismissed the crowds, he went up to the mountain by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone, but the boat by this time was many furlongs distant from the land, beaten by the waves, for the wind was against them. And in the fourth watch of the night he came to them, walking on the sea. When the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified, saying, "It is a ghost!" And they cried out in fear. But immediately he spoke to them and said, "Take heart, it is I. Have no fear." And Peter answered him, "Lord, if it is you, bid me come to you on the water." He said, "Come." So Jesus got out of the boat and walked on the water and came to Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me." Jesus immediately reached out his hand and caught him, saying to him, "O man of little faith, why did you doubt?" And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased, and those in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly you are the Son of God." This is the reading of the word. Thanks be to God. Today we are starting with video. You're going to enjoy it.
Now surely your heart must be heavy with sins to which you want to confess. Who will be the first to start the ball rolling by giving testimony?
Very Southstreet, give testimony.
I plead the fifth commandment.
Come on. We know how to the other is. But if one of you will open your heart, the others will follow.
Betty, this is an order. Tell the people what a bum you are.
Well, I was always a bad guy. I was even a bad gambler. I would like to be a good guy and a good gambler. I think.
Who will be next?
Big Julie,
What's the pitch?
tell the people all the terrible things you've done, but you ain't gonna do them no more. And watch your language.
Well, I used to be bad when I was a kid, but ever since then I've gone straight. As been proved by my record. 33 arrests and no convictions.
Horse? No. Harry the horse.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Well, when Sky was rolling us against our souls,
Beg your pardon.
Sky Masters rolled us $1,000 against our souls. That's why we're here.
I don't think I understand.
I'll interpret for you, Joel. He means that they are here only because Sky Masterson won them in a dice game.
Then this whole meeting, in a way, is the result of gambling. Fire fought with fire. Sergeant Sarah, you ought to be congratulated.
Congratulations, Sarah.
Thank you so much.
I ain't finished my testimony yet. So, my sin is that when Sky was rolling us, I wish that I could win $1,000 instead of having them come here. Now, I'm here. I still wish.
Something very funny has been happening to me. Sitting here, I mean. Like I've been remembering a dream.
Tell us nicely. Tell us in your own words.
Yeah, that's it. A dream.
I dreamed last night I got on the boat to heaven, and by some chance I had brought my dice along, and there I stood, and I hollered someone paid me, but the passengers, they knew right from wrong. Well, the people said, sit down, you're on the boat. People all said, sit down, you're rocking the boat. And the devil will drag you under, while the shark will have your checkered coat. Sit down, you're rocking the boat. I sailed away on that little boat to heaven, and by some chance found a bottle in my fist, and there I stood nicely passing out the whiskey, but the passengers were bound to resist. For the people all said beware, and you're on a heavy quest. Beware, people all said beware, and beware, the scuttle ship. And the devil will throw you under, for the fancy tie round you with your rope. Sit down, you're rocking the boat. And as I laughed at those passengers to heaven, a great big wave came and washed me overboard. And as I sank and I hollered, someone save me. That's the moment I woke up. Thank the Lord. Thank the Lord. And I said to myself, sit down, you're rocking the boat. Sit down, and myself, sit down, you're rocking the boat. And the devil will drag you under, with a soul so heavy you never float. Sit down, you're rocking the boat. Sit down, you're rocking the boat. Sit down, you're rocking the boat. Sit down, you're rocking the boat.
Please tell me you have seen that movie. If you have not, Guys and Dolls, 1955, starring Frank Sinatra, Marlon Brando, Gene Simmons, and Vivian Blaine. Put it on the cultural bucket list, my friends. It is a wonderful, wonderful... Oh, I need to turn myself back on, don't I? Here we go. Am I on again? Can we mute everything else? I don't know. I'm getting feedback. I don't know whether it's me or not. Okay, yeah, there we go. Nicely, who is the main singer of this particular song, is played by Stubby Kaye. And the song comes to us when the men present are forced to be in the prayer meeting. I don't know if you caught that, but they were forced to be in the prayer meeting because Sky Masterson, who's played by Marlon Brando, had won them in a dice game, $1,000 for their souls. Worth it. If you've not seen the movie, it's actually really worth watching. It's an interesting dynamic of faith and transforming your life for faith. At least I find it interesting. Anywho, we hear all the confessions of the men, and the nicely nice who stands up, and the people all say, sit down, you're rocking the boat. Sit down, you're rocking the boat. Begs the question, right? What boat? Are you rocking the boat of complacency? The boat of tradition? The boat of comfort? The boat of familiarity? The boat of injustice? The boat of normal? The boat of this is how it has always been? The boat of ignorance? The boat of denial? The boat of silence? The boat of inaction? The boat of... Wait, I should back up, right? And instead of asking what boat we are on, I probably should be asking, and we should be asking ourselves this question first. Are we the one doing the rocking? Are we the ones wanting the rocking to stop? You see, we're not a bunch of gamblers who lost a bet to join in a prayer meeting. You're here voluntarily, I hope. But this question is pertinent to us as faithful followers of Jesus. Our scripture today, my friends, is where Jesus is on the lake with his disciples. There are two big stories of this throughout the Gospels that we're familiar with. The one where Jesus calms the storm. And then this one where Jesus walks on water. Not only does Jesus walk on water, but one of his disciples, Peter, gets up and steps out of the boat and heads towards Jesus, walking on top of the water too. Now remember, most of the disciples are fishermen who grew up around the sea, so they were all well aware of the power of water during storms and extreme winds as they were apparently experiencing. Most of us here understand the extreme power of nature when it's at force. But up stands Peter, and not only does he stand up, he stands up and begins to step out onto the water. I can almost hear the disciples going, "Sit down! You're rocking the boat!" Can't you hear that? Because remember, the disciples are incredibly human and embody us so often throughout Scripture. Their reactions, what we would constitute as normal, right? Don't stand up and rock the boat, we're going to capsize. You see, by this point in Scripture, they are fairly used to the uniqueness of Jesus. So although he's walking on the water and at first they think it's a ghost, when he says, "Do not fear," they're like, "Oh, okay, this is normal." They've seen him perform miracles, they've seen him interpret Scripture and teach radical new things. While what he was doing was extraordinary, it was not out of the realm of possibility for the Jesus as the disciples knew him. They also trusted him enough. Because remember when he said, "Do not fear," their fears were stilled. Peter, however, changes the game. By him standing up and stepping out, he is decidedly rocking the boat of the disciples. You see, the disciples were followers of Jesus, but what Peter was doing was an extreme version of following. Remember, these are the 12 men who are the closest people to Jesus. They are close enough to live with him and travel with him. And of those 12 men who could be considered the most faithful men in existence at that time in believing in Jesus, of those 12, only one stepped out onto that water and walked towards Jesus. He followed after Jesus and kept going until the wind buffeted him and caused him to be afraid. But when Jesus reached out his hand and lifted him up, and together they turned and walked towards the rest of the disciples. You see, oftentimes we read this story as how even when we are afraid when following, we can put our trust in him, and he will reach out his hand and help us along life's difficult ways. That's a wonderful and comforting definition, isn't it? It kind of gives us the warm fuzzy to know that when we are sinking in a stormy sea of life, Jesus will reach out his hand to us and lift us up so that we can not only stand, but also continue to walk beside him. But some of the challenges of our faith, my friends, are to look beyond an initial surface level interpretation and view the story through another lens. You see, Jesus reaching out and helping us is only one facet to this story. I want us instead to explore it through the angle of the disciples. You see, the disciples are in this boat together. They had left Jesus to pray and were heading to the other side. They see him in front of them, almost like a ghost, until he asks them to not be afraid. So they calm down until one of the 12 stands up and rocks the boat. This is an insane average. 1 out of 12. You know, 1 out of 10 is 10%. That's failing. So 1 out of 12 is 1/12. That's even less than, I'm not math. We know it's less than 10%, right? So how often, though, do we have Jesus in front of us doing miraculous and wonderful things, and yet we remain seated? We remain seated because we are unwilling to rock the boat. We listen to the cries of those who surround us and sit down so we do not rock anything. These are some of the most faithful people. They are the men whom went on to create what we know as the Christian faith. They believed in Jesus, loved him, and trusted in him. Their belief and love of him, though, does not mean that they do not get complacent and comfortable in their vote of faith. You see, it takes courage, my friends, to step up and stand and eventually leave the boat. While Peter is blessed to see and know Jesus is in front of him there to reach out his physical hand, we don't have that same luxury, do we? Being faithful today is harder in a lot of ways than it was for the disciples. They lived, worked, and truly walked with Jesus. And still, as we see so often, they failed to grasp what and who was with them. We don't have the same circumstances, but we do have the beauty of the whole story. You see, Peter stepped out not knowing or understanding the full power of whom he was walking towards. We don't have that excuse. We know it. We know when we step up and step out that Jesus is not only there. We know and rest in this assurance because we have this story to reside with. We know that Jesus will reach out his hand when we perhaps falter and help us stand strong even on the most unstable of surfaces. We know this. Our faith is based on these stories of the disciples and the Gospels, our reading and knowledge of the new and the old. And yet, my friends, still we struggle. We struggle sometimes to stand up, step out, and walk towards Jesus. See, Peter was walking on stormy water. We're not promised easy passage, but we are certainly promised Jesus. Our faith assures us of his presence there. His presence is there to guide us and to help us when we falter. So it begs the question of why do we join in the chorus saying, "Sit down, you're rocking the boat." Why do we join in that when we have been invited by our faith in Jesus to be along for the ride? Why are we so blessed? We are in this boat together. And yet we get so complacent that we forget why we are even in the boat in the first place. There is nothing in our lives but our faith in Jesus that invites us along. But often, my friends, we are too blinded by our own way to be able to stand up and rock the boat as we follow. It is up to us, then, to determine when and where and how. But our calling in faith and our belief in Jesus Christ compels us and asks us to take a chance. To step out in faith and walk with our Lord. Amen.